Hey, what's up, guys? Man, this book here, I finally got my hands on this book. It wasn't cheap, and it's thick. This thing will stop a bullet. Nightmare USA. This had come out in 2007. This is the sixth printing. This is probably one of the most informative, one of the best done books on horror films that I have ever seen. I don't say that lightly, and obviously the sixth printing edition of this bears it out. As a resource, okay, for a coffee table sized book, this thing will knock you silly if I hit you with it, which I would never do to any of my, loyal watchers. This book by a British writer, him being an outsider to America, but you have a lot. I mean, it's mostly the same things. This, well, just the opening part here of the format. This is great. This reminds me of that Atari book where it opens up where you have all the different video games in each little box here. So I have not seen most of these films. I have seen most of the box covers for these films going back since I was a kid in video stores. Okay, and it's kind of cool. The different logos, almost reminiscent of like metal. Okay, and you wanted a good logo, to catch the attention, just like you wanted a good box cover. I don't know. I guess the Golden Girls is a horror. Right? Yeah, but a few of these I've seen. Attack of the Beast Creatures. Right? The Crazies. He covers Romero too. Romero's included in this. He includes like his lesser known movies like The Crazies and Martin. Of course, Romero always said Martin was his favorite film, and the writer here really likes it. But I don't want to. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. I don't want this. I can't even make a video on all of this. This is, like I said, the amount of text in this, which is all informative, is great. You have to be a super horror head to appreciate it. This is like a grail. This thing. First section here, he goes over the introduction to what he means, the exploitation independence. Right? Remember John Carpenter says, back then we were making exploitation films. Yeah. He covers that almost everything is shot on 16 millimeter film. So occasionally 35, sometimes even Super 8. There's even a few shot on video things in here, but it's not going to be the norm later. Okay. He really highlights what I like. He really highlights in this. And he does it later in the review section where he reviews many more movies than just the ones he was covering, where he actually got to talk to the filmmakers behind it. They always mention what state they're in. He mentions the localism, like I had brought up with that Scary Monsters issues with the horrors. The localism in this, okay? For someone in America or someone outside of America, like the UK, a lot of these horror films were shot locally. So you got to see, instead of just California and New York for the 10,000th time, you got to see Louisiana, Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan, New Mexico. You got to see other parts of the country that you didn't normally see. So the much missed localism of the time was very apparent. One of the other things, and there's two major themes to bring in because, reality is always more interesting than fantasy, right? Is that two things hit this thing. You have the localism. A lot of these people had problems by the mid-'80s. Okay? First off, a lot of these people that you'll see a common thread. A lot of these people got ripped off. Okay? So these movies were not movies that didn't make money. A lot of these films did very well. They made money. Okay, and these guys were all consistently ripped off. Okay, even when they had hired legitimate legal help. Okay, even when they had gone through reputable distributors and people with deals, they still all got ripped off anyway. And those weren't the fly-by-night people doing it to them. And then in the mid-'80s, all kinds of laws are passed, incentives are taken away, right? Because the studio system, people with the power, right? When they want something, guess what? Laws tend to go in their favor, isn't it? I wonder how that happens. I can't understand it. Okay, well, this screwed a lot of these people. This is when the torch sort of gets taken by the real micro-budget people shooting on video cameras and whatnot, to only have maybe a video release at the best. So by the mid 80s, this kind of thing, the time and place, and I'm always talking about historicism, the snapshot of a time and a place. This all ends by that time. Okay? They're lucky if they made any money off the VHS release. Okay? And it's interesting too. The section 2 is the one where he talks to in extensive interviews. I'll focus on one here. Okay, a movie that I had seen the box cover of that I just saw the other day on a video platform. Okay, The Deadly Spawn. Right? Go here. I mean, the amount of effort this guy put in. Right? Like how The Deadly Spawn in Japan. The Japanese love these movies. Look, Eating Machine. Yeah, you bet. That's a good name, Japanese name for it. I seen the box cover of this for years. I just never got around to ever renting it when I was younger or watching it on DVD or what have you. This movie's crazy, yo. This is a really good movie. Okay, now forget my opinion. Okay, the FX is crazy. The action sequences in it, the way it's done, right? I was shot in Jersey, but touch it, right? The way it was done. There's a lot. The director, this guy, he just passed away. There was a lot of skill in it. There's a lot of interesting things talking to the guy. There was schisms on the set. It's a chaotic movie. It's a very gory movie, but it's very well done. It's almost mean-spirited, but and then talking about it, all the things, the obviously the conflicts between the actors, the special effects guys, the shooting schedule, the idea that they wanted to make it over the course of it takes place over the course of one day. So it's supposed to be raining all day, so they always had someone with a hose shooting water, in front of the camera to simulate rain. Look how much stuff is here. Look how much, you'd almost wouldn't imagine so much effort being put into this. Alright, so I'll do another one here. Using the index. And of course, Don't Go in the House, which came out at the same time as Empire Strikes Back because the poster was in the lobby when I went to see it. Alright, here's a movie. Alright, I'll show you right here. And some of these are exploitation films. I'm not, they're like violent. I'm the horror guy mostly, but there's some crossover. Yeah, okay. Messiah of Evil. Okay, this is like Lamora, right? Child's Tale of Supernatural. Let's Scare Jessica to Death. The Child. There's so many of these really one-shot movies that were done. They're not just like hack movies. They're really done well. The people in it are very talented. They're trying, obviously they probably want to do other films and they're starting out in a horror film, but this movie, man, very Lovecraftian, and the story behind it is just absolutely fascinating. There's scenes in this that are like an art film. There's scenes in this that almost look like what you'd see in some of the Fulci films later, right? The story, right? It's like The Shadow of Innsmouth, in California. The acting, the women in it. I mentioned it before. The women, the hard luck women in it. The strange dandy hero, and they talk about the behind the scenes of this mayhem of these zombie cult people. Yeah, it just goes on. You see the actual original VHS releases. Of course, this scene here. Just watch the film. You can see it all over the place. It's been like public domain for a while. This scene right here with Joy Bang. I think that was a pseudonym. Holy jeez, what a scene that is. Just I could go on and on. Right, Screams of a Winter Night. Actually, that sounds like a really interesting film. I've heard of it. The idea of making an anthology horror film where the characters are telling stories, okay, while something else is going on outside of the cabin they're in, and the fact that in the stories, the people playing the characters in the stories are the same actors and actresses, just in different roles. I think that's fascinating. I always think that's fascinating. There's a lot of these movies I want to check out just because of this book. And of course, the review section, I haven't even gotten to this yet. So let me just round it out. I guess maybe he's working on a sequel. I don't know, but this, I'm telling you, if you're a horror head, if you're a film fan, if you're into the genre stuff, which if you're watching my channel, you probably are. I'm telling you, save your shekels, right? This book is as good as they say. It is as useful as they say. And it is Nightmare USA, okay? Of course, it was just a prelude, right? The Nightmare USA that I always talk about, okay? This was all, these are, like I keep mentioning, like the decadents in the 19th century. In some ways, these are horror people from the 70s and the 80s. These are the prophets, okay? This is the prophet of what is to come. Nightmare USA. Let's enjoy this film later.